Caution, approximately 5 seconds remain until impact. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So, with the tradition of January movies not making the cut for a holiday release due to a lack of confidence from the studio to be profitable, especially horror movies that didn't even make it for the spooky season, which are ultimately pushed back to January due to the post-holiday slowdown of moviegoers, and with the borderline parody marketing of this one, yeah, I'm sure we were all expecting something ridiculous, and it for sure was, but it was indeed a surprise in just how effective it was in different aspects than you would expect. M3GAN. What does M3GAN stand for again? There was an abbreviation for it. Let me just double check here. Model 3 Generative Android. After a tragic accident, a little girl's toy manufacturing aunt will invent a lifelike robot to befriend her niece, but once the AI robot becomes self-aware, it will start to take a life of its own. And of course, spoiler alert. So with the story and concept of a little girl avoiding the grieving process of losing her parents and befriending a robot that becomes a parental figure for her, definitely sounds like an episode out of Black Mirror. You'd think that the script would just rely completely on, ooh, creepy robot, wants to become human, starts acting human, wants a human life. Instead, the script surprises you by tackling the relationships between mankind and machine to somber levels I was just not prepared for. Watching this Anne character feel out of her depth when taking custody of this poor child and watching her lose that child to the very machine that she created was just sad. This is just a very somber and sad story. The strongest aspects of the story are when the little girl is confronted with these emotions that come with her loss. Completely understandable emotions, but still tragic nonetheless. It all just felt so real and so sad. It actually gave me a subtle knot in my stomach. Then enters M3GAN, who at first does seem to be the answer for all of this pain, but once it's clear that she is just merely a distraction instead of the solution to the grieving process, it then becomes up to the aunt to become her true motherly figure. I just wasn't expecting this level of emotional intelligence or psychology when it comes to this little girl grieving her parents. I was in the theater taken aback, just saying to myself, holy moly, I like this. Now, when you hear me explain the plot of this movie, I'm sure you're thinking that it just sounds like a full-blown drama at this point, but it was actually only a third of that, I would say, when it comes to the genre. I would say the clashing of different tones is probably the biggest missed opportunity for me in this movie. If it's not tugging at your heartstring with grounded human emotional behavior, it's either a campy horror comedy fest when it comes to M3GAN going on her murder sprees, which are very much reminiscent of Chucky from the Child's Play franchise, which can also be fun, I'll admit, or it attempts a full-blown horror genre by doing slow, silent build-ups to ultimately end in a pitiful jump scare. I feel like these are definitely way too many genres to tackle in one movie. And for a concept about an AI rampaging, you would think that it would either go full camp or full-blown horror. Separately, these two genres are fine, and separately, these two genres can be fun. I would say it's that third genre, the drama aspects, that mostly kept my attention. Out of those three genres, it was campy horror that dominated the other two, and it was very apparent even with the very first scene of the movie. The movie opens with a toy commercial for a fictitious toy, very reminiscent of Furbies. So creepy, so weird, so bizarre, you just think to yourself, what child is asking for this? Are children really asking their parents to play with these type of toys? These are nightmare fuels. Look at these things. These things are horrifying. Also, I guess just a minor nitpick note I had was it's established that our main little girl character, Katie, they did specify her age. I believe it was around the age of 10. I'm surprised that a girl at her age, especially if this is supposed to be in modern days, I'm surprised that a little girl can be more invested into actual physical toys than being invested on technology. Yes, they established that she had very strict parents and that they regulated her time on any screen, but still, I just find that hard to believe that a little girl around 10 years old would prefer playing with toys than being on the internet or just using any tablet or phone. A little nitpick for me. Oh god, just explaining this, I sound like my parents right now. Now, when it comes to the performances in this movie, I feel the motherly figure arc of Allison Williams' character, going from slight indifference for Katie to legitimate concern for Katie once M3GAN gets involved, was believable for sure. Now, Violet McGraw well as Katie. I recognize this actress actually from Separation. That was another movie that I reviewed from 2021. Go check out that review. It seems as though she's been getting roles in stories that have to do with parental guidance or screwy relationships with parental figures in general, it seems. I'm noticing a pattern there. Either way, it suits her, I would say. She has that somber look to her. Does that mean to say? Now, when it comes to child actors, I usually do tend to give them a little bit more slack due to obviously not having as much experience as seasoned adult actors, of course. Therefore, I would say that a few of her lines at times did feel a little bit wooden and a little bit hollow, but for the most part, she did sell the grieving emotion of a little girl who lost her parents, absolutely. And I'll give her this, she seems to be building herself up more than other child actors that I've seen her age so far. Now on to the icon queen herself, the stan icon herself, M3GAN. There are two actors that actually brought her to life. The on-set body performance by Amy Donald, who embodied just unnatural, robotic, stiff movements to a T, along with some pretty sick dance moves, I'll add. And for the voice performance by Gina Davis, I absolutely adored what they did to alter her voice to make her sound like a robot. She just sounded like one of the Turins from Portal.
Is anyone there?
Or even just a teen angst version of GLaDOS from Portal as well.
You dangerous, mute, lunatic.
And when she would just break out in song randomly, I was internally saying to myself, what the fuck? In just the most gleeful way possible. And as the story and movie progressed, the more her AI seemed to be evolving, the more M3GAN was starting to talk and behave like an actual human. But still with the uncanny vocals and body movements, she definitely became a disturbing force to be reckoned with. And if we're going to be seeing more of her in future installments, I'm sure she'll definitely make the spot for one of horror's icons. Just hearing M3GAN start to swear more and just start to act and talk like an angsty child, it was just all beautimous to behold, and it was all just so much fun. Now, for the character that definitely sold me in the fact that this was a more campy tone was the intentional toy company boss. He was such an over-the-top dick to every single person around him, to the point of just throwing things around the room and throwing tantrums. It just completely took me out of the movie. At times, it really just felt like it was a borderline parody. I would say the last thing that held this movie back from becoming a true modern horror movie classic was the PG-13 rating. A few of M3GAN's lines delivered seemed to just not match what her lips were saying, and I'm not sure if that was intentional or not, but if there was possible redubbing there, it was obvious. I'm sure they were probably doing it intentionally just to show that it was just a creepy facial AI. I recently read that there is actually an unrated version currently being written for the movie by the screenwriters, so hopefully that will see through to the end, and we can hopefully possibly get an alternate cut one day to get more angsty lines. I would definitely be interested in checking that out. An unrated and rated R version of this, come on. I feel like the set pieces that M3GAN committed her kills actually did kind of push the PG-13 rating, I would say. There was actually a ton more blood than I was expecting, but I would still love to see a rated R version or an unrated version of this for sure. It would definitely have M3GAN's infamy match that of Chucky or any other killer doll icon. There are so many killer dolls, holy moly. I don't think anybody can really keep track of how many total killer dolls there have been. Sometimes you just want to see a doll just go ham, go sicko mode, go fucko mode, and just wreck everything in its path. It can be fun. I will not deny that. So I guess I also just wanted to touch upon the theme a little bit more on the relationship between mankind and technology. I would say it's actually quite true. Again, not to sound like my parents, but I'm gonna sound like my parents and your guys' parents probably. It definitely seems as though we as the human species have just grown way too attached to, it's not just our phone, but just any piece of technology when it just comes to finding comfort instead of the very people that are right in front of us. You know, the very people that are actually in our lives. I think tackling this theme definitely could have gone the wrong way. It could have easily just been shoved down your throat and obnoxious by the end, but I think they struck a really fair balance between going with allegory and just telling an engaging, somber story. This movie subverted all of our expectations. It became the strongest opening to a movie released in January in years, it seems. So it seems as though this movie just broke away from the January movie curse. And even though the campy comedy did conflict with some actual tense and emotionally driven moments for me, I was still able to just munch on my popcorn and have fun with this one. Here's hoping this strong start to the year is a good omen for what is to come in 2023. 7 out of 10, campy horror fun, conflicting with emotional beats that tackle very real themes on technology. Thank you to everyone who partook in the online poll between who would they rather see go on a murderous rampage. Seems as though Kermit was a more popular choice because he seems to have more of a internet meme culture presence. But I don't know, I felt like with Curious George, we haven't really seen any iteration before of a murderous Curious George. So I was just thinking that seeing him go on a murderous rampage would be a lot more refreshing. I mean, come on, look at that face. He would definitely murder you in your sleep.